Just wanted to stop before the intro actually happens and say this one's a little different. We actually recorded a Zoom meeting for this episode of the podcast. So the quality is going to be a little different than what you've seen in the past, but we really still wanted to share it. Had a really great conversation with Little Wildflower Studio, Art Studio, Morgan Vuyovich. She's really awesome, really great perspective when it comes to art, to creativity. She uses epoxy to help kids like learn new mediums. It's a really great interview, but I want to just pause and acknowledge the quality, that it's a little different than the past videos that you've seen. So hopefully you still enjoy it, and we'll see you next time. Welcome to another episode of the Keep Making podcast. Today on the podcast, I've got a special guest. I'd love if you could actually introduce yourself to the audience, because they might not know who you are. I've just recently been following you on Instagram. I thought you'd be really fascinated to interview. Your philosophy is very similar to Alumilite's when it comes to wanting to like knock down the walls of fear around creativity. But maybe just start with an intro of like your name, what maybe the sign behind you says, that kind of thing, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, well, my name's Morgan Vuyovich. I am the owner of Little Wildflowers Art Studio here in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. It's an art studio for kids, and so behind me it says "Every child is an artist," which is a quote. I can't steal that one. That's from the famous Picasso, so that wouldn't be cool. But that's kind of the philosophy that I really believe, is that every kid, really every human, but I really specifically focus on kids, really just has an innate sense of creativity that sometimes gets pushed to the side in school and amongst all the other million things that we have to get done. And so I really try to bring that out and expose them to different art mediums and really just let them have fun and be creative and express themselves.
Awesome. How long have you been doing this now?
This is my 7th year teaching art classes in a private arena. I never did it in a school, in a public school or anything, but this is my 4th year owning my own studio. I was working with somebody else before. Yeah. Okay. So how did you fall into this? Because I mean, the philosophy is wonderful, by the way. We also believe that everybody's creative. Yes. We also think that is such a wonderful avenue, especially with kids. And it is something that can kind of be pushed out of you with life sometimes. And totally,
I think we briefly were talking about before we actually started recording that some people even say that I don't have a creative bone in my body. And we both were like, no.
Yeah, exactly.
So for you, why did you start going towards the kid route? Like when it comes like, you know what, this is the arena that I really want to focus in when it comes to creativity.
Yeah. That's a great question. So when I was younger, I always wanted to be a teacher, and I always loved creating. Like I would go to summer camp and always want to go to the craft room at church. Don't tell my mom, but I would say I was going to the bathroom, and I would go to the church, like preschool or whatever craft room.
That's awesome.
To make something with popsicle sticks and seashells or whatever was in there, and then run back to my seat at church when I was younger. I just always loved it, but I also always wanted to be a teacher. And I think the reason I wanted to focus on kids was, for me growing up, like when I would take an art class, like let's say at school, up until about 5th grade, like pretty much every kid, they don't really question if they're good at stuff. Like maybe through 4th, you're like, I'm just good. They just do the work, art. They don't. But once you hit about 5th grade, you start looking around and you're like, ooh, she's really good. Like actually that person's better than me. And then the system kind of encourages that too. Not even just the public school system, but just the way that we kind of run as a society. It's like once somebody has it figured out, they've kind of got it. You either have it or you don't. Is kind of the way that is the feeling that maybe I felt, and I'm sure there are other people who feel this way too. Well, I know there are because kids tell me. But So like, for example, when I went to middle school and I wanted to do art so bad, I was so excited. And on one of the first days, the teacher, his name was Mr. J, and he sat out this bowl of fruit. And it was in a bowl and fruit. And he sat it on the table and he said, everybody draw this picture and paint it maybe. And I was like, okay. So I tried, and mine was like, I mean, there were kids who, you know, you can imagine did really nice job. Like it looked like the bowl of fruit, and mine was just thinning. Mm-hmm. And so from there on, he was kind of like, okay, you know, when we do our critiques, this one gets an A, yours doesn't, you know, like, because, yeah. So from then on, I didn't
feeling it all.
No. And I didn't take art classes anymore. I was like, well, I guess I'm more going the math or science route or something. And so I did. And, but as I got older, I realized like every job that I would do, I worked in a corporate setting. I lived in Texas, and I worked with all these men, older men, and, like my actual job I didn't really like, but what I loved is when one of them or one of their kids would have a birthday, and I would like set up the office, and I would like go and get all this stuff. Like, and these old men, they were like 60, 70 years old, and they're like, Morgan, we stopped caring about our birthdays like 40 years ago. Like, you need to find something where that you're loving. This is not for you. And I was like, okay, that's probably a clear sign.
Yeah. So wait, how did you divert into that then? Because obviously, like you went, it's like a long tail back towards like yourself.
Yeah, that's right. So my mom's an artist as well, and so she was teaching art classes to adults this was about 8 years ago. And so I went to one of her classes. She does like a mixed media art journaling. So you get a journal and you get all these cool supplies, and I don't know, it's just a neat concept, but it's about like, you know, using your intuition to create, and you do a lot of writing. And so I took one of her classes, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I love this. Like, this feels so good. Mm-hmm. And it really, I was kind of in a hard place at the time. And so it really kind of opened me up and helped me out a lot, and helped me to feel a little bit better about what was going on in my life. And so, I don't know, I just kind of, we actually decided to open an art studio together. That was a little over 7 years ago. And
you and your mom decided to open that.
My mom and I did, yeah. And so we taught classes to kids, but we did other stuff too. We sold art and painted furniture and all kinds of stuff. And so I ended in that, like when we started working with kids, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, these kids are magical to work with, you know? And there's just that, it just feels good to encourage that in them. It felt really good to me at the time because I was struggling, you know? And so, you know how sometimes when we're struggling the worst, the best thing to do is to help somebody else.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, well, from what I'm hearing, like you actually, you're, and maybe this is too forward. We literally just met each other like this morning.
You're good.
But you might be helping the kid that got told that your fruit wasn't the best fruit, and you're making sure that other kids don't have that experience in a way that, like, you know, set you on a path where you weren't going to really pursue creativity in general and making stuff. For a long time, but you're like kind of like, hey, I want to make sure these kids know, regardless of what they're making, this act is a good act.
Yeah. That's why I feel so passionate about it, is because that's what I experienced, was like, you're not really that good, you know, you're not good at it. And so, and I realized like drawing just fruit, you know, an orange and the apple, like that's not really like what I like to create, but I do love, I mean, I have other works of art that I've loved and I've, you know, that I think are beautiful, that it's not a bowl of fruit. That's like, you know, there's so much more.
I was going to say that when you look at that art, like that's like the tiniest pinhole that you could peek at, like that's it. That one drawing of the fruit.
You're either in the art club or you're out, you know. That's how I felt.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's kind of a crappy feeling. So I would wager that adults still feel this way when it comes to creativity. Yeah. I know that you primarily work with kids, but I mean, we encounter it all the time when it comes to people using our products, or just the intimidation factor of even like, what's resin? Like, how do I do this?
Right.
Do I have to mix this stuff? But the reason why I discovered you is because you were helping kids use resin to make some art. Can you maybe, I don't know if you remember that interaction, but could you talk about how you were helping the kids experience art in this medium a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So I'll touch on what you were saying. The beginning of that, you were talking about how adults really struggle with that too. And like, oh my God, it's like hardwired into our brain to be like constantly questioning ourselves, I think. So when we can get over that in a day, or, you know, sometimes I think it feels really good. But I know before we started this, you and I were talking about how as adults, you know, I've seen on YouTube these amazing resin things, or even I've gone to restaurants and seen like tabletops where people have taken resin and mixed in colors, and I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. And I've Googled resin and it's like $6 million or something, like, and I'm like, how can I
right, for the big tables, yes.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think what I loved was I was at I guess I'm allowed to say I was at Hobby Lobby, and your product was right there on the end cap, and it was resin, and I was like, I'm freaking buying it, because I'm just going to do it. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how it works. I'm going to look it up. And I think that's where some of us will get trapped, you know, we're like, oh, I shouldn't do that because I don't know. I don't, you know, it takes a certain amount of bravery to take that risk into doing something.
Right.
But I love that quote by Henry Matisse where he says, creativity takes courage, because that's just so true. I mean, it is. So even just taking that step to buy and to try is, you know, it's like, oh, what if I just buy it and it just sits in a closet somewhere, and, you know, but to actually do it and get your hands in it and experience the medium, and then it just makes you feel so good. You know, to try something. And
well, and that whole that courage is very rewarding once you've actually taken those steps. Like the next thing that you experience is like the joy of actually making something new for you.
Exactly. Yeah.
So for you just did this recently. How long ago was that?
It was within the month that I was like, yeah, we're doing this in our class today. We got some gloves and opened up all the doors and everything, and
good ventilation, good safety. We are very much about that.
And our gloves, I ordered some kid gloves, and so we just poured. It was so easy. I think that's what I loved about it was like, take bottle A and pour a little bit into this cup, and take bottle B and pour it in and mix it and then pour it. And I had some silicone molds that we could pour it in, and we used a little bit of ink to color it. And oh my gosh, the stuff they made, they loved it. The kids loved it. They loved just like the fact of like, you could pour it in and it would turn into like, I don't know, resin, but it looked like plastic to them. It looked like real. So
yeah, no, it's incredible, because the end result and the reward of that, even for the little kids. And how old were the kids that were using it?
So my classes start with ages 6 and go up to 12. I have a couple different. And so there were 6-year-olds up to 12-year-olds, and they were, so I live really close. I mean, the beach is like, I can see it out my window. We actually took a walk down to the ocean one day, collected seashells, and they brought them back, and then we cast the seashells that they found in the resin.
That's so fun.
I know. And then we put some magnets on the back of them so they could stick them on their fridge or whatever, to have somewhere to go. And they turned out amazing, and they just thought it was so neat, something that they actually found. And we added some glitter and stuff like that. So
awesome. That's so fun. So
cool.
You've been doing this now in the new studio, so about, you said 4 years?
4 years, yeah.
4 years, and you've been doing this for about 7 years. So you kind of went through the history of how you like left this part of yourself and kind of returned to this part of yourself, and you very clearly get a lot of enjoyment out of helping kids discover this for themselves. Because like when you're talking about them, even on your face, I can tell that you really like seeing their joy when they're like, look what I made.
Yes.
So is what makes you keep doing this? And I'm wondering if that has something to do with it. It's like, ooh, that joy that I get to witness with these kids. Is that what kind of drives you to do this and play in these different mediums and arenas?
Absolutely. So I think what motivated me initially to start my own studio was my husband and I were young. We had one daughter and a baby. I was pregnant. I was like 8 months pregnant. And it was like, we do need a little, we want to add a little bit more income. And I didn't think with being at home with 2 little kids, I could just go work somewhere, you know. Didn't want to just go I just knew that I had so much passion and I loved, teaching art. And I thought maybe there would be no ceiling here, let me just try this. So I literally can't believe I did this, but 8 months was pregnant and I start a business. I find a space. It just kind of like happened. And, so then I planned summer camps like 2 months after I have a newborn baby because I'm like, I need to start making income. And also, it sounds so crazy. Like moms have said, like, how do you do this? Honestly, when you have something that you love, and then of course, when you can financially, when you can make money doing it and you're having fun, it's like, it's not really work, it's like there are challenges, of course, accounting is work to me, but doing, creating and Hobby Lobby and finding a product like yours and being like, okay, I'm going to show this to these kids. And P.S. I've never used it, so I can't wait to use it either. It's like, it's not work. I mean, it's so fun. Now my kids come to my studio. I have 3 daughters. And so we just we spend a lot of time in here and they get to explore. I mean, like my 6-7-year-old sews on the sewing machine.
That's so fun. Cool. So this is clearly something that you're trying to instill in your children. This is a question that I kind of asked some of the guests that have been on that are a bit more comfortable with it. But like, how are you trying to instill creativity and like maybe the courage of, like you said, about like, the art takes courage. How are you trying to instill that with your daughters? Because you've got 3 and you've got the ages all the way down to 2, right? So you got a spectrum there. So how, as a mom, when it comes to like doing this, how do you navigate those waters?
Well, I think I just try to live it out. Like I try to just not be hard on myself, which doesn't always happen. But, I try to be creative with, as we were talking about before, being a parent, it takes insane amounts of courage. That's why it drives me nuts when parents will say, well, I don't have a creative bone in my body. I'm like, you've got a kid that needs to be here and one that's sick and you've got a wife who's got to work and you've got to, I mean, that's insane. And just trying to figure it out and manage it. It does take creativity. And courage to make it all work, But I think for my girls, I just constantly trying to live in that way, or like when they get worked up about whatever they can't figure it out, I'm always trying to tell them like, let's just come up with a solution, and it might not work. We might fail, we might still be late for school, or we might, but it'll be okay. And I think just trying to live that life of doing it, you are going to fail and you don't have to beat yourself up about it. I mean, you have 2 babies at home. I mean, it's like you're getting some stuff right and you're getting you're failing, and it's like you just gotta might not see, but
yes, 100% yes. I resonate with that big time, especially the chaos of having 2 boys that are 17 months apart, navigating those waters. But like I've found that like creativity for me helps so immensely, because one, like, it reminds me that like you gotta, one thing that has helped me with navigating that realms of creativity and work and life and in general is like learning how to not judge myself. that much because everybody's kind of like, everybody's going through stuff, but like you tend to be our own worst critics. Like those inner voices, like if you can just like forgive yourself and or just stop judging yourself, because you wouldn't hold your partner or your children to the same standards that you generally hold yourself to. So why are you doing that for yourself? So for me, that's been a big part of like trying to like ease up on my own expectations, even though like I have very high expectations and ambitions and all that stuff. They're very large. But if I'm not doing things because of that crippling, like, anxiety and all that stuff, you gotta really take it easy so that you can actually do.
Yeah. And I think too, with my girls, I don't know if they'll see it this way or not, but like me just going out there and starting my own business, maybe they'll see that one day as like, oh, mom, she did her own thing. I can do my own thing and not have to be.
You did it when you were 8 months pregnant.
Yeah. And not have to be completely dependent on somebody else. We can do it as a team kind of thing.
So do you ever get your husband out there in the shop with you? What does he do? Is he,
he's a chiropractor.
He's a chiropractor.
Yeah. So he's an artist of the spine.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
And he will, since he will draw pictures for the girls, which I love for my daughters, like when I'm not home, they'll say, Dad, draw me a unicorn or whatever. So I come home and there's these like dad drawn unicorns that they've colored in, and it's so good. It's so sweet. But yeah, I mean, he would probably love it, but usually while I'm here, he's keeping one of our kids or, or he's at work or something like that. So
no, that makes sense. I mostly was just actually out of curiosity because like my wife and I do the same thing when it comes to like, all right, it's your turn to like go tackle whatever thing you need to tackle. And then like I'm there with both boys, just like, playing,
surviving,
being a monster or something, whatever they want me to do, which is like, Dad, chase me, which is normally the thing. Like they just like hide and like expect me to run after them, which after like 2 hours, I'm like, I need a break. They have endless energy. But no, so let me hop back to where we currently are. So you're in a studio space, you share it, you teach classes, you've used our resins in certain things. So what are you hoping to do next? I know that like art is just this vast world of possibility, and it really is up to any of your own imaginations. But is there avenues that you're like super curious about or want to help kids learn about in these spaces that are future forward that excite you?
I've always been kind of, since I've opened my studio, we've always been about like, let's just try this. And like for them, like I want them to just feel confident in picking up. We do so much. Like I have 6-year-olds, like I said, my daughter, but like we learn how to use the sewing machine right over there. We like do all kinds of clay where we bake stuff, and we have a little tiny oven over there. We make doll houses, we use hammers and nails. And so I'm always like saying like, let's make, I'll give them a ton of supplies and a little direction, and then let them kind of go and figure out what it is that, go with their own like little intuitive spirit. And so I think there's a part of me that kind of wants to actually teach some techniques like, that different artists use. I don't really do that, but I want to kind of, so here's my vision that I want to.
All right, here it is. Yeah, I saw that switch over. Here it is.
So there's 2 things that I want to do. One thing I would love to do is to create an online art business where, like I'll be teaching the class, but it's video. I'm videoing it, and like let's say, your 2-year-old for Thanksgiving. You said you have a big family, so let's say a bunch of your family members are getting together, and you've got a big table. You put a tablecloth down, and all the kids, let's say there's like 10 kids, and they're going to do an art project. And so, I have this vision of like you, Kaiten, going on and ordering my video and saying, we've got 10 kids. I send you all the supplies.
Mm-hmm.
And then you put the video on the TV or whatever. I don't know how I would make a video yet. I haven't done it. But then they all sit there and you're enjoying the adult room, whatever you guys are doing. And all the kids are together and I'm on the video, like teaching the art video. It's recorded, teaching the art lesson. And so everybody's got all their supplies set out. Like I tell you, how to get everything set out so they can sit there for an hour and a half and have this cool craft. And then they're done and they've got this awesome memory and they have a piece of art that they're proud of. And the adults have had time to just like relax and talk and think clearly for a few minutes. And
I love the best part is the reward for the adult is like, you could think clearly for 10 minutes. And every adult will be like, cool, I'm on board for this. I'm all about this. That's awesome. That's a great idea. So that was one. That's one. There's number two. What's the other thing?
That's the like start. That's where I want to start. And so then I eventually want to I want to have I do summer camps. I do art camps that are like a week long and they come from like 9 to 1 or 9 to 12 and we do different projects all week. But I can envision like having a weekend art retreat where maybe like a mom and daughter or dad and daughter come to where we live, because we live in the most beautiful place in the United States. I mean, it's so pretty here. I mean, I don't know. Maybe
North Carolina, is that where it is?
Yeah, it's in North Carolina. It's a little tiny island off the coast. Okay, so people come here for a weekend and we do all kinds of different art projects and it's like a big thing. Maybe we do some art on the beach and we do and then we go see local artists. We have awesome art here, like different artists that, make beautiful stuff. So we have like different field trips around the island where we live. And it's like a destination thing. I could see that being really cool. Maybe they to do a surf lesson. My sister-in-law teaches surf lessons. Maybe they get to do that sometime. Yeah. So and then maybe even having like trips where we go to, let's say like 10 or 15 families sign up, because I've got this online business. So they know me kind of, and we go to New York and we all stay in the same place. And we have kind of an itinerary for the day where we go to this museum, we go here, we go to this really cool place for lunch. Then in the afternoon, there's free time. And then at night we go see this show. So like an art weekend, again, like at this point, I can't imagine taking like 15 kids by myself or, I would have to hire help, obviously. But so I can only imagine right now people's parents coming, but making it a really fun weekend. So that's like what I'm like.
Great ideas. These are wonderful ideas.
Thank you.
I honestly see these happening way sooner than you probably even imagine. If I'm catching any vibes from your spirit about this, I feel like these will be realities way sooner than people imagine.
Cool. Maybe you'll bring your kids one day.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I'd like to bring the whole clan, especially if you have like people that are teaching surf lessons. Like, I'm all about that. That'd be fun. I've never surfed on the East Coast. I've only surfed on the West Coast. So.
There's all kinds of cool stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. And then, so I do this with everybody that I interview. I wanted to give you a heads up. I give the opportunity for them to ask me a question if you want. You do not have to, because I feel like it's only fair since I'm like sitting here like just asking a bunch of questions of you to let it come back this way. But before that, you talked about what you're excited about. I wanted to open the door into the other side, which is like, is there anything that kind of scares you about the state of maybe art or like practicing creativity, or are there things that give you pause that you're like, I'm not sure about these mediums? Like, it could be about technology. I don't know. But like, let me know what maybe some things that might be scary for you or that you find that are really scary for other people.
Yeah. Well, let's see. All of it's kind of scary at first, because that's part of it. But I think for me right now, the scariest thing is starting this new business venture of going online. It just seems so big and so cool, but I don't even really know where to begin. And then in terms of in the studio, I don't really know, it's just always trying to stay not getting worried, like, I wonder why they didn't sign up, or why that whole like mindset of like, is this working? Is it not? I mean, it is, but I can always get caught in the trap of like, there's nothing wrong with wanting things to be better, but also getting in the trap of like, I'm not enough, I'm not doing enough. It's not good enough. It's not, these people want something different. I create these stories, about what I am thinking that people are thinking.
Yep. No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. It sounds like you're a human. It sounds like you struggle with humans.
Yep. You're right.
Yeah. So I know this might sound like super cheesy, but can you let our audience know like where they could find you? Like if they're only listening, where they could find you, like online or social media or that kind of stuff, and then you can ask your question to me, and we'll kind of wrap this sucker up.
Perfect. So my website is www.littlewildflowersartstudio.com.
Cool.
Also on Instagram, I'm always putting stuff up on my story, like live footage of the classes. And that's just at Little Wildflowers Art Studio.
Cool.
And also I have the Facebook page, same thing, Little Wildflowers Art Studio. So I don't do as much on there. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
Cool. We'll put the links and stuff in the description as well. But just if people are driving or something like that, if they're like, oh yeah, I want to find, don't do it while you're driving though. Like wait till you park. Okay. So do you have a question for me as we wrap this up?
Yeah. So what is, in your opinion, what is the coolest thing you've made, or that maybe you've seen being made with some of the Alumilite products?
Yeah, wow, that is a great question. So one of the things that I'm kind of excited about currently that we'll be doing is you can use the epoxy or the resin to coat literally anything. And we've got some projects, like we're building out our studio and our office right now, and there's these really cool couches that are made from plywood. And like plywood normally, like you wouldn't want to sit on plywood because it's a terrible surface. But you can cover plywood with epoxy and it becomes smooth. And then you could put like leather cushioned seats on top of that. And so you can design like really obscure looking furniture with plywood. So I'm really looking forward to that project with my content maker, educator, partner in crime guy that we work on a lot of videos together, because those are going to be, I think those are going to be really sweet to see and interact with. So
that sounds amazing. So do you have a mold for them or something?
No. So what you do is like you'd coat the wood first. Well, actually, obviously make all the plans, but then once you have the plans, you'd coat the pieces of particle board or whatever we're going to end up using to make it. And then you just build the furniture. So then they would all have this like wonderful sheen to it. And then we'd like design the pads that we'd want to put on it as well. Because we want like when people to walk into our space, it'd be like the first thing that they see is something that was made with our product, even if it's just a baseline epoxy coating. But then, I mean, we do have much bigger plans when it comes to like using our molds and the resin. But some of those are going to be secret. I could say it's called Project Snowfall, but that's like all I could really say right now, because we're very excited about it. But like,
I am sitting on the edge of my seat. I can't wait.
Yeah. So, well, cool. I really, really, really appreciate you taking the time to be on this podcast.
Thank you so much for asking me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm hoping that the audio quality for those of you that are listening to this works out. I'm using a Zoom meeting, so hopefully this still works well. But in general, Morgan, it was really nice to meet you. I can't wait to let the world know more about you, and hopefully people start following you and I can't wait for that online business. I think that's a really wonderful idea.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your support so much, and it's been nice meeting you too, Kaiten. I hope you have a great cold day with your boys.
I appreciate that.